The Rabbi. Glad to have you back. Interesting discussions this week.
The discussion.
It is a discussion. It really is. I mean,
it's the discussion.
In the world today, if you look at what the media, at least what the media says, the reason that Donald Trump was elected president, the reason that we had the Brexit vote, the reason that a lot of things are going on in France right now is because of the term nationalism. That's what I don't know if I totally agree with how the media is kind of writing it off to nationalism. I think they're doing that a little bit to kind of explain it and saying that people are bad and they're nationalistic. But that's what the theory. The theory is it's only about America here, it's only about France, it's only about Britain, and we're got to be more nationalistic. And that's that wave of nationalism they're saying that is spreading across the globe right now. Whereas, and probably why there is some sort of a wave of nationalism, is before that, especially during the Obama administration and things like that, there was a wave of globalism spreading across the world, where it's all about one world government, and it's not just about the U.S. We have to consider Ethiopia, we've got to consider the Middle East, and everything is, we're all part of one globe. The UN is powerful, and we all have to work together.
We are the world.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Keep going if you want more time to think. No, but that's the issue. So is it globalistic? Is it nationalistic? Now, obviously, these two terms are completely different. Globalism, we know what it is. Nationalism is what it is, and these are totally separate. Now, Rabbi Freeman has a theory. He uses the Torah in his theory, like usual.
Once again.
His one source, his one book he goes to, and says that somehow, there can be both. We're going to have globalistic nationalism or nationalistic globalism. I'm not sure where he's going.
That's a good question. I have to figure that one out.
Which one is it? So I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
And so I think the Rabbi Freeman, you need to kind of enlighten us on where you get this theory, and I assume it's from the Torah, and where does it come from, and which way are we really going in the world?
You know, when we heard President Trump's inaugural address, he really, put the flag in, he planted the flag of nationalism. He said, straight out, we're here to take care of America first. And he said, and you guys, every one of you, basically said, you should take care of yourselves first also. Now we'll all work together because, we'll, but basically he wants France thinking of France first, and China thinking of China first, and the United States is going to think of the United States first. And that means that everybody, get yourself a country and hunker down.
Right, exactly.
Hey, on the other hand, I just heard a woman this morning who is a feminist, and when they asked her if she's a feminist, she said no, she prefers not to be a feminist. Why not? She said it's too much. Even feminism is too narrow. It's too narrow, too small. She says I'm a humanist.
I want to be one of those.
Right. Then the truth is, probably if you pushed her, she would be more than a humanist, because she probably holds animals too. So she's probably like a beingist or something. And I don't know what you even call it. What the term is. But the idea is, she's saying we should all just respect each other regardless of our differences, understand each other, and understand and listen and support, and you got the whole picture, right? Right. She said she doesn't like feminism because it's got too much baggage. The title is too much baggage. She's just beyond that. She's just so far beyond that, and we all need to get beyond that. Okay, so now everyone, and it seems as though the world is actually moving towards globalism. This globalism stuff, it didn't just come out of nowhere.
It's been around.
The world is moving towards globalism in the way that we now understand, first of all, our markets and economies. Everything is so, we don't have anything that's not made in China. Everything that I'm wearing was made in some other country.
And if the stock market goes down in China, we're expecting it to go down in America the next morning.
That's right. That's A. And then B is, there's so many cultural norms that are spread all around the world because of the internet and all the information. It's not like there's a certain type of way that people dress when they're in Sweden and a different way that people dress when they're in the Congo. Right. If you want to get a picture of a bunch of people in the Congo today, they're wearing T-shirts that probably say the same things that the guy in Sweden's wearing.
Right, that's true.
They're pretty much, because there's this globalism, and everyone knows, you get a popular entertainers and sports and all that type of stuff. It's all very global. So that's another reason why. And another reason is the barriers to travel are just like blown to pieces. Once upon a time, if somebody, when I was a kid, if somebody went to China, when he came back, they would have an event for him at the local synagogue, and he would tell about his trip to China, maybe even show pictures, click, slides. He'd show slides, click, and this
Rabbi's
is
a little older than most of us.
This is Martha and I at the Great Wall of China. So people going to China every day. Like, where were you? I was in China. Oh, yeah, really? How was it? We had a great time. Oh, great. That's it. So it's become so common, and we all meet people from other countries because there's so much interaction.
You can think about it. It's been a long time since I've received a postcard.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if they still make those.
That's right. That's right.
You and
right.
why.
And if you got a postcard of someone I could send you a postcard, right? I could send you a text right now, hi from China. Like, what would that mean? Right. What in the world would that mean, So there are a lot of reasons why this globalism thing is on the front burner. Now, the problem is that many people are pushing back. And the reason they're pushing back is because rather than giving everyone an expanded sense of self and making me feel like, wow, I am so big, like we are the world.
Right.
People are starting to feel that they're losing their sense of self. And they're clawing back, like, give me it back, give me my factory back, give me my American, give me my speak my language. Don't you come in here and dress like you dress and tell me and all that, I don't like that. I don't like the foreigners, I want to be my own guy. So what's going on? So first of all, where's the Torah come down in all this?
That's the big question.
Okay, so one thing you have to know, the Torah has a global outlook.
Okay.
The Torah is a very, very global outlook. That we are staunch believers that the world is moving towards a point of oneness.
Okay, right.
Oneness. Says, the famous song that we sing in the synagogue at the end of all the services, says, on that day, God will be one, and His name is one. And we say, what does that mean, His name is one? Meaning, how will God be one? Everyone is going to worship one God. We talk about in the high holiday prayers, everyone will put their shoulder forward together as one. And, this idea of like the unity of peoples and all, it's very, very Jewish idea, messianic vision.
But I'm worried that there's a lot of globalists right now going, no, stop.
Yeah.
Right. This is not what we're talking about.
Oh.
This is not what we mean when we say globalism.
Right.
I think you're going to have a little bit of a disagreement here.
That's right. But the Torah is very globalistic,
Yes.
except that the Torah puts God on the top of the heap, and many of the globalists out there will probably take even less kindly to the next statement is that we believe that that's going to be ushered in by a messianic era. And there's going to be this one king that's going to unify everyone. The question is, why do we need one king to unify everyone? Because there is a fundamental flaw with globalism. And that is because place is essential to each and every person. God created a world that has place.
Right.
You come from a place. Your place has a lot of bearing on who you are. It is your identity. Now you can switch to another place and settle down there and become very much part of the new place. That can be after a period of dislocation, which is very difficult on everyone.
Right.
But ultimately you can settle down, but it's really important to be part of the place that you are in.
I mean, it's been that way. I mean, General Lee, who was the head of the American Army, had a high-ranking man in the American Army, said, "No, I'm a Virginian.
Right.
I've got to stay, and I've got to fight. You don't want to go to war. I have to stay, and I have to fight for."
That's
Virginia.
right, because it's me.
That's who I am.
It's me.
Virginia.
Even logically, I should go with the other side, but it's me. That's where I came from. If you call someone a New Yorker,
Right.
everyone that means something.
That sticks too.
That means something. It's not just like a little that doesn't mean that he comes from New York. He lives in one of the 5 boroughs. It means it's a whole definition of the person, right?
Well, there's no doubt.
Right? And just the same, people come from the Midwest. He's a real Midwestern. Midwesterners are Southerners are Southerners. There is a certain tangible part of your identity. And you can't, when you say global means, no, I'm ignoring my local
That's tough.
existence. And that's like saying, I'm just going to ignore part of my brain or part of my personality. You just can't do that because it's you, no matter what you do. This is the same thing that people want everyone to be sort of like asexual. You're not a man, you're not a woman, you are. I don't see, when I look at you, I don't see a woman, I don't see a man, I don't see this gender or that gender. You're beyond genders. Gender is as a man-made, a definition. It's a box that you're putting me in. Well, people find that I don't know who I am. You're taking away the me. This is reflected in the Torah. The Torah says clearly that God established the boundaries of nations. And he put people in those nations. And they're part of their definitions. He put people in a place. Now, even if a person switches place, you don't want to be out of place. You want to be in your place, and that is your identity. You want to be in your place, and you want to be able to play that role. If you do switch, you're very dislocated. You're separated from yourself. This is the problem of immigrants.
Right.
Immigrants have a big difficulty. They try to create their old place and their new place. The children of immigrants always have a tug of war inside of them.
They're all living in the same area, in the same community. The
Right.
Somalians are living in
Right, and am I right? Am I a Somali? Am I from Minnesota? And believe me, the difference between being a Somali and a Minnesotan, I've met some Somalis, and I'm from Minnesota, and like being a Minnesotan and being a Somali, that's like very, very different. And I'm not just talking about like snow and heat. Like people from Minnesota are different. They got this sort of like Norwegian stoicism, whole different approach to life and everything. Somali's just very, very different.
Yeah.
So if you grow up, you're a kid, you're growing up in Minneapolis, you got Somali parents, and you got Minnesota environment and school and all this stuff. Who are you? What are you? It is very, very dislocating. It's very difficult. And this is why some kids get radicalized and they say, no, I'm a Somali. And they take this Somali identity on like to such an extreme that they got to get up and go off to somewhere and go start blowing things up. Because they're desperate to find this sense of like who I am. This is why we see this idea of being radicalized. What do you mean being radicalized? I grew up in Minnesota, full of Norwegians, Swedes, Scandinavian types, lots of Germans. Never heard of anyone getting radicalized.
3 Jews.
Yeah, not too many more. Yeah, I never heard anybody getting radicalized. Look, what does that mean, getting radicalized? How'd you get where? Now, why do these guys get radicalized? Because they're stuck in the tug of war. They're stuck in that tug of war. And, as opposed to once upon a time, everyone would say, your job is like, forget about where you came from, assimilate, try to become an American as quick as possible, don't dress like you used to, don't talk like you used to, go to school, try to get rid of your accent, all that type of thing. But nowadays they encourage them to hang on to that. But I'm not there. So I'm hanging on to something, but I'm not there. So it's real difficult. Because the Torah recognizes place as an essential component of the human psyche.
It's interesting, yeah.
So now what do? That's why the only way globalism will work will be in the Jewish model. If you try to do this globalism where you strip people of their distinct identities, it's never going to work because people are going to revolt, they can rebel because you ripped out part of their psyche. Can't be.
Well, that makes sense.
So what you need is, everyone to say, listen, you are a Midwesterner. You happen to be a South American. That's who you are. That's what you are. That's what you eat. That's the way you believe. Those are your values. Now, what I want to do is I want to get you and the Midwesterner are going to work together because you all recognize a greater goal. And in that greater goal, only that greater goal can recognize, I love you, South American. I love you, Midwesterner. You're both good. You're both different. You both have a place under God. You know? Sort of like one nation, indivisible,
wow.
with truth and justice under God. Now, the fact that they said that, much to the disdain of so many people nowadays, with truth and justice under God, because really, ultimately, everyone believes if it's truth and justice underneath any human being, it's not going to be so truthful, and it's not going to be so just.
Right.
It's not going to
I haven't seen that one happen yet. No.
It ain't going to happen. Has not happened until now, and you know, it's still not going to happen, even though I'm sure there were many people that thought that 8 years ago, when President Obama was elected, it had happened. Like a, you know, like they were ringing the bells were ringing in the church towers and all that.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes, it didn't happen.
Not so good.
And it's not going to happen.
Right.
As a matter of fact, many people would say, and I think he says, it actually got worse because, you know, there was this pushback because up until then, people said, okay, you know, he's letting me, I can still feel like who I am, and they'll let me alone. But then the people felt like, uh-oh, they're not leaving me alone. They come after me, they're going to make me globalize.
But you're still saying that there's first going to be a man, a Mashiach, a man is going to come, and somehow, this is the tough part, through war, through the after war, is going to get the whole world, the Midwesterners, the South Americans, and everybody else to say, you know what? Not this man, even though it's a man who did this, but through God, we are all now one.
Right. And he's going to solve one of the really big ills of today, and that is immigration. There are lots of people that are moving around, not because they really want to, but because circumstances back home are not so good. So he's going to solve that because he's going to make circumstances back home good. The real solution to immigration is make the circumstances better. Like, for example, you don't like Syrian refugees? Stop the war in Syria, you won't have Syrian refugees. Right? The Syrians like Syria. They don't like it when it's the war and everyone's getting killed. Yeah, nobody likes that too much. And as a matter of fact, they like it so little that they'll even move to places like Minnesota. Like, if you're from Syria, why in the world would you want to move to Minnesota? It's so cold there. And people will do it if they have to. But the real solution is, if a guy can make a living in Mexico, he'll stay in Mexico. He doesn't have to come over here, you know? He doesn't have to go anywhere else. So people will stay put if they can because they like it. Only when they don't like it. So that's going to be his job. And that's what he's going to do, is going to show everyone how to make Indonesia great again.
Wow.
You know? Make South Sudan great again. Right?
I have not seen that happen.
Yeah, it's going to be, right. Make South Sudan great again, right, and all that. That's what they're going to do. But that could only happen with a concerted effort on behalf of everyone. And the truth is, Americans should want to make South Sudan great again.
Just they stay in South Sudan?
Yeah, the people in South Sudan can be happy, and they can stay there, right?
So you're saying that God's immigration plan is a little bit different than either Trump's or the Democrats. A little bit different. And again, you know, truthfully, his would work great.
God really wants to freeze the borders.
I think he does.
Not to superimpose it externally, but to take away from people the desire to go anywhere. Because ultimately, we believe that people will be happier. French people are happier in France, and Asians are happier in Asia. That's the way it is.
So you're right. You really are explaining two different theories and giving them all to guys. Globalization, yeah, we'll have globalization. We want South Sudan to be great.
Yes.
But nationalistic is we want you to stay in South Sudan.
Right. Now, you know what the key to all this is? And the question that everyone's probably asking is, look at the Jews. If there's anyone that's global, it's the Jews. I mean, The Jews, they don't have they for centuries are wandering around the globe, and the wandering Jew, I mean, that's what Jews are called. The Jews are wandering Jews. They never have a piece of land, and they don't have a place, and they're everywhere in all these different countries and all that type of stuff. Well, nowadays we do see the last 100 years has brought us the concept of an actual piece of geography for the Jewish people, which hadn't been heard of for nearly 2,000 years. But now we're back to starting to look at Jews via a piece of geography. That's an unusual thing for Jews, right? It's a new development. And ultimately, the biggest development that's going to have to take place in order for the Jewish globalization, nationalism theme to work is that the Jews are going to also have to get back to a piece of land.
Now, the issue with that is, I mean, think it well. You're going to need a lot of land. All the movies are going to be made there. All the lawyers are going to be there. I mean, accountants. I mean, it's going to need a big. I don't know if we have enough room right now in Israel.
You know,
New Hollywood's going to be over there.
They'll just figure out an app, and they'll come up with an app for that.
I'm going to say, because there's a lot going to be going on.
There's a lot. They've been figuring out how to like make components smaller. The chips are getting smaller. The truth is, the little strip of land that is in Israel produces way out of proportion to its size. Israel is really not about being a producer of raw materials.
No,
it's not really its thing.
No.
Right? That's I don't know if it's ever really been its thing. Although I do understand that in the ancient world, Israel was a prime producer of both olives and wheat. So, but there's a lot of things that the abundance that can come. They used to be olives, like we're that big, growing on the trees. So, maybe they'll figure it out. But the first thing, in order for this to really, really happen, is that the Jews are going to have to become a geographical entity once more. And we're moving towards that, and that's what's happening now. And that is a step towards globalization. So I really am all for the globalists. However, the globalists have to understand that it's not at the expense of nationalism. What we want is all the nationalities to work and think in a global way as they exist within their nationality.
Problem is, instead of, I think, what you've just said, making everybody come together, I think you've just angered everybody.
Hey,
you're the globalist
wow.
side, and you're the nationalist side.
Yeah.
Anybody's going to be happy with that.
Yeah.
But I guess that's in the Torah. It works.
The nationalist thing is not going to work because you can't ignore everyone else.
Right.
And the way we are in this world today, you'll never get away with that argument. You're right. That argument, I get it 100%. No country is an island and all that type of stuff. You can't go it alone. On the other hand, to ignore the identity of nationalism is sheer folly.
Right.
You just can't rip that out of a person and expect that you can have a happy player. You can have a radicalized person that's going to get so angry, he's going to go out and blow up people.
Gosh, and we've seen him.
Yeah, right.
Wow, so the rabbi's done a great job today of alienating everyone.
And
that's
we try.
He's done a good job of that. Well, if you're still a listener next week, if you guys want a viewer, we'll come back with something else to make you feel good about yourself. But that's a very interesting argument. It honestly really is, and I guess it's really the only realistic argument. I guess God's argument's a little bit more.
It's the plan. It's in the plan. It's in the books. It's on the books been there for a long time.
Wow. All right, I'm in.
Okay.
That's it. All right, see you next week.